401k advisors want to build a scalable practice, but aren't always sure what to do next. Welcome to Outcomes, the podcast designed to help advisors think, make decisions, and cast a vision to create a business for the future. Here's your host, Ross Marino, financial planner, author, speaker, and CEO of Advisor2X.
Welcome to the Outcomes Show. Today, I am joined by Bill Cates. Hello, Bill.
Hey, Ross. Good to see you.
Glad to have you on the show today. I've known your name for years. I've read your books. You've been one of the thought leaders in marketing and generating referrals and in our industry for a long time. Maybe not everybody, well, everybody definitely isn't as old as me, so they haven't been following you for as many decades. However, they may not know your history. Can you start with a little history of what you do and what you're doing now?
Yeah, sure. First of all, let's just to make sure people didn't, read the notes wrong or hear you wrong. It's Bill Cates with a C, not Bill Gates. All right. So he's got billions of dollars. I have a little less. He's giving his money away. I'm trying to help you make more money. There's some relationship there. Yeah, gosh, for almost 30 years, I've been helping financial professionals of all types, 401k professionals, wealth managers, you name it, build their business, multiply their best clients through referrals, through introductions, other aspects around that, being more referable, et cetera. And I just love the business. I think the work is important work that advisors of all types do. And I tell my staff that, as we serve financial professionals, we're helping them serve others with the important work. And that's kind of our mission. So yeah, I've been doing it for a long time. I've written 5-6 books on the topic, spoken at $1 million round table all over the world, you name it, kind of done it.
We have a similar mission at Advisor2X, and I certainly share with our team that when we support advisors, this is the end result, because you always want to know the relevance of what you do. And I love this industry. I love what it does. And, over the years, 30 years, a lot has changed. So business does change, it evolves. We're now coming out of the pandemic, hopefully, and certainly things have changed from a few years ago. But when it comes to business and referrals, let's just start with what hasn't changed, Bill.
Sure. Well, I mean, the trite answer is relationships and the importance of relationships, of course. I'll go a little bit more. I mean, if you just think about before the internet, before the telephone, before the telegraph, if someone wanted to do business in another town, they would travel to that town, and what would they bring with them? A letter of introduction. So the concept of the way of the world is meeting people through other people, and the referral, the introduction is the warm way we get into their lives. That has not changed. I don't think it'll ever change. Yeah, sure, there's a shiny object of social media and this and that, and we can pull people into our world in other ways. But usually, and I know for the audience listening here, you got to get introduced, you got to get connected. You've got a committee that often you have to connect with, and what's the better way than just be introduced by somebody else? So that's something that I don't think will ever change.
Makes sense. So in your book, you say you have to start with a relentless passion for truly knowing your clients. What does that mean?
Yeah, so you're referring to my book, Radical Relevance, which is my newest book. And so to make sure our message gets listened to by our prospects, right? We need to be relevant. We need to be compelling. First of all, the shortest line, straightest line to relevance with someone who doesn't know us is an introduction from someone they do know, someone they trust. We borrow that trust, right? It's about borrowed trust. And so to become radically relevant as possible, it's all about context. We got to know the context of these people we're reaching out to. And so how do we get that context? We just get to know their world in a way that our competitors don't take the time to get to know their world. And it's strategic in terms of targeting a specific type of market, perhaps, and finding the bullseye in that market, to the tactical of the research you do before you send an email or get on the phone and leave a message or whatever. So the more we truly care about the context of our prospects and becoming an expert in their area, in their field as well as our own, the two come together, and that's how we're radically relevant, and we have a message that they will listen to, they will pay attention to.
You spend a lot of time talking about right fit clients, and that's used a lot. And whenever I hear that and I see it, I know it's important. And I'll remember back, say 30 years ago, and I remember hearing, you need your best fit, your right fit client. And I would think, my right fit client at this point in time is someone who potentially could generate revenue. And then maybe a few years after that, it's anybody who generates revenue. And then as your book matures, you realize, okay, they were all right. Not some of the people, they were all right. You need best fit. You need right fit. It's scary up front because you're trying to build the book. But as time goes on, you eventually determine what your right fit is. So I want to ask a tactical question right off the bat. Had someone just 2 days ago asked if they could send me a referral, and they wanted to know if I would talk to them. And being a referral coach and an expert on your end, your first thought may be, why would they even have to ask you that question? Well, there's a, hashtag financial advisor failure right there. So I certainly haven't put enough effort into that. So I want to get to the point where that client isn't saying, could I send this person to you? They actually know. And my answer was, is it going to be a good fit? Help me understand, how can I help my clients know who my right fit client is?
Yeah, it's a big question. If I could tell you just a very quick example of that, I actually had a call yesterday with a client of mine, and a few weeks ago we were having a call. I was helping him. We have a kind of relationship where he just, every time you have a question around marketing and sales, that I'm one of the brains, one of the feeble brains he can pick. And so he said to me, he says, Bill, I get the feeling sometimes that you're not really that eager for new business. And I go, Rich, why do you say that? He says, well, you haven't asked me for referrals yet. And I go, well, you're right. And you are on a little different world than most of the folks that I serve. So I wasn't quite sure about that yet. And, of course, I'm just getting a dose of my own medicine here, right, from my clients. We hate it when our clients feed back to us, we've said to them. And I said, no, you're right. I am looking. It's got to be the right fit, though. It's got to be the right type of person. And he says, oh, I appreciate that. And he says, can we schedule a call and I'll learn more? And I go, of course, right? So we had that call yesterday, and it was perfect because he doesn't want to waste my time. Doesn't want to waste the other person's time. I mean, we've all had people introduced to us and we've kind of said yes, right, out of respect, whatever, for their introducer, and realizing, I'm not sure why I'm saying yes to this, right? So, and sometimes we are pleasantly surprised, and sometimes we, should have trusted our intuition. So that's a long way of coming around to the point where I think that we have to be careful who we get introduced to, especially when we've been fairly successful in this business, and not everyone is a right fit anymore. And so we've got to let our clients know a few things. First of all, we're not the right firm. We're not the right person. Our process isn't the right process for just everybody. We're somewhat selective on who we serve because we want to make sure it's the right match. So just that alone is a tactical thing to say, so people just don't assume and don't just send people our way that might not be a match. And then what I'll tell people is, so if you identify one or more people you think should know, or, in the 401k business, firms that you think I should know about, check with me. Let's talk. Let's make sure that it really is the right thing. So that's that's the way I kind of plant the seed. But ultimately, we want to try to teach our clients who we serve the best. Now, notice I'm saying who we serve the best versus who I'm looking for. It's the same thing, but we're just taking more of a client-centered approach as opposed to an us-centered approach. Who we serve the best, who our processes are geared towards, who we do or whom we do our best work. And so, yeah, we want to teach folks. If you ever identify someone you think should know about the work I do, I think it'd be good for you to have a sense of who we're serving these days, people much like yourself, because it's usually, you're going to be bringing this up to someone who's kind of like who you're looking for anyway, right? Right. And so you compliment them, you're what we call an A client, and here's why. And, if you're pretty positive, yeah, send them our way. Happy to see if we can serve them. If you're not sure, just check with me first, and we'll make sure we don't waste anyone's time. So I think that's pretty important, especially for folks who aren't brand new.
What I found impressive in the book is when I see right fit or best fit client, I've seen that on internet articles, and you hear, the 3 quick bullet points. It's an okay conversation for people to have. And I get that. But as an advisor listening, I don't get a lot out of that. It's like the Captain Obvious. Here's a few bullet points. Here's a few thoughts. But as I went through your book, I kind of smiled and thought, finally, this is drilled down. Now I can think through this of what is the right fit. And I made some notes, and you identified a string of the right, which to me was the nugget of the book. And it said, you want to find the right problems and have the right product, the right service, the right people, the right message, the right medium, and then finally at the right time. And then I stopped and thought, now here's someone who can help me think on really what the right fit is, instead of, high revenue, low maintenance, makes me feel good, similar to my other ones. Those are, yeah, that sounds great, but I can't develop a strategic plan off of that. So
Right.
Can you take a couple of those that you mentioned in that list that you think advisors maybe don't put as much emphasis on, and they really need to zero in on? What do I need to get right, Bill?
Yeah, sure. And that those things that you just enumerated there, if you have done any kind of marketing effort, whether it's LinkedIn, mail, email, whatever it is, and it didn't take hold like you hoped it would, then that's what you need to look at. Was I targeting the right person with the right message, offering to fix the right problem that they know they have? By the way, we want to try to build our business as best we can, focusing on problems that we know that they know they have. So they're blatant, they're out there, and they're also critical, things that they need to fix versus aspirational to fix. Because, businesses, individuals, they'll move heaven and earth to fix a blatant critical problem. Anything else short of that, then maybe they'll get around to it someday, right? So let's talk a little more about the problem, right? So what is, and by the way, this all comes from that gaining that context, right? So one of the things I'm always an advocate is targeting our market. I have a specific target market, an industry niche, perhaps could be a couple of related industries. And by doing that, then we get to know their world in a way that other people wouldn't know their world. And so guess what? We figure out what are their blatant critical problems. And then our message, the right message, pulls that out, talks about that, teases that. It's all about empathy. Empathy is not the same as sympathy. Empathy is appreciation for understanding of someone's situation. And so that's critical in sales and marketing, that we have a message that shows we understand their world. So having the right message is probably one of the most important things for the right person, right? We got to get those two together, right message, right people. Now, timing, depending on the business, sometimes the timing is right, sometimes it isn't. I know in the 401k business, the timing can be critical, all critical, right? So that's an issue. The right medium, where do your people congregate? When I say congregate, it could be physically, it could be digitally, on the internet. And so what's the best way to get that message to them? Facebook, probably not. LinkedIn, sure. And, whenever I say Facebook, probably not, someone will come back to me and say, well, Bill, I actually do a lot with clients on Facebook. Okay, good. More power to you. But figuring all that out. And if any one of those is off, your results are going to be off. And, so do we have the right message for the right person? Are we getting to them in the right way? Best we can figure out is the timing right. And the only way to really know all of this, and we can use our best guess, and we always do, but is to test. And so we do a lot of A/B testing. We'll change a headline. We just did an email to our list yesterday where we changed a little piece of the subject line. Not much. You don't want to change more than one thing. Otherwise, you don't know what made the difference. And just to see, which is going to make the difference. And then knowing that we may keep that change moving forward, that becomes our control. So I don't know, I hope that's what you were looking for, but that's where all that comes together. And the problem is, Ross, is a lot of people don't take the time to think through that really. They may do it a little bit unconsciously as they're trying to craft their message and things, but they don't often stop and do the checklist. Am I doing it to the right person, right way? And final, if I can say one more thing, in the book, we have the 17 rules of radical relevance. And rule number 2 is give your clients a seat at the table. And so whenever we're developing marketing campaigns, anything like this, we almost always want to talk to at least a few clients, get their feedback. How do they react to this or that and the other? And there's always clients that are willing to help us. And in a lot of cases, for the audience on this podcast, it's business owners a lot, and they like to talk about that sort of stuff. So
the difference between empathy and sympathy, I think that's one of the challenges that we have as advisors, because we can ask the questions, but if we haven't sat in their seat, if we haven't been the CFO or the head of an investment committee on the 401k side, or if we haven't been the business owner, realizing that the 401k is one of 1,000 things I need to worry about. And I'm sorry, it's not top 10, right? To really understand what's going on and to probe and find out, what are you thinking? How are you feeling? I know it's a challenge, but a lot of it comes down to how the brain works. And, I'm a closet neuro geek. And when you have a whole chapter on neuroscience, I full disclosure, Bill, I missed chapter 1 and 2 in your book. Sorry.
You went right there. Huh?
I went straight to the neuroscience one. And it was wonderful, because you just have your nuggets that you just drop them. And what I think is great about it for someone who's going to buy the book and read it is you don't have a 17-page story to make a point. And for your typical type A DD advisor, I'm not going to make it through the 17-page story. So you start off with a very simple sentence: the brain craves clarity. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So from a neuroscience and biology standpoint, and I'm by no means a neuroscientist, my brain hurt just researching and writing the chapter. But so the purpose of the brain, the primary purpose, right, to borrow a term from Star Trek, the prime directive of the brain is to keep the organism alive, right? Above all things is survival. Okay, so therefore, the purpose of the brain is to actually decrease calorie consumption. Just at times when I put on the COVID-19 and I'm trying to spend calories, my brain's kind of fighting me, because the brain wants to conserve calories. Why? Because that means conservation of energy, which keeps the organism alive. All right, so any message that isn't clear, that's the least bit confusing, requires the brain to work a little harder, to spend more energy calories, and it doesn't like that. So that's why we will often just very quickly move on if it's a message that doesn't resonate, isn't crystal clear with us. Now, sometimes if we're super interested in the topic, then we will marshal the forces to focus, and we can all do that, even ADD people like me, squirrel, but right. But nonetheless, clarity. So let me give you an example. There's a term in cognitive psychology, cognitive neuroscience, sorry. Yes, there is a field called cognitive neuroscience, and this is called cognitive fluency. And what it says is, if someone comes to your website or looks at your messaging, listens to you on the phone, whatever it may be, and there isn't crystal clear what the next step is, what you're explaining, then they're going to assume that doing business with you is complicated. They will make that leap. If things aren't clear and simple every step along the way, the brain starts to think, all right, this is complicated. I don't want to go there. I'm not going to go there. Irrelevant to me. And so that's just one of many, many examples. I'll give you one more, because you say that like this stuff, and I love this stuff. So we always thought that human beings, and I don't care if 401k, is a B2B sale, so to speak, it's still a human sale, right? And so what we know about human beings, or always thought, was that they made decisions based on emotion, and then they supported them by logic. And while that's not exactly the case, it's similar. So Antonio Damasio, famed neuroscientist, actually finally has proven with a technology called magnetic resonance tomography. Try saying that 10 times fast.
No.
Magnetic resonance tomography. He had subjects whose part of the brain that felt emotion was damaged. They weren't able to feel emotion, so they weren't able to make decisions. They couldn't even decide if they're going to have wheat flakes or corn flakes for breakfast, right? So what he proved is what we all suspected. At the heart of every human decision is emotion. That's why it's so important. When I'm consulting with clients, coaching, working with them, one of the first things I do is I say, let's put yourself in the shoes of your prospects. What are the emotional components, relationship to what you do? What are their fears, doubts, concerns, all of that? And what are the opportunities and the possibilities as well? Because we want to build that empathy up for the emotional component of the decisions related to what we do, because that's what's going to influence them a little bit more and at least capture their attention a little bit more before we get into any of the irrational aspects of it. That other stuff's important. Statistics are important. All of that's important. Why? Because it creates an emotional response, which is the ultimate of the decision.
Excellent. Two follow-ups there, statements. One is, as you explain cognitive fluency, the crystal clear next step, I just typed out, must offer a call to action always.
Yes.
I don't know if I got that before. Always, right?
Always a call to action, always a clear call to action, hopefully compelling. Learn more isn't particularly compelling. But if you say, learn more how to retain more employees with the right 401k package or something, right? So, right. I mean, we know that 401k, okay, maybe it's not like the blatant, critical problem, but employee retention and culture are blatant critical problems. And so if you can tie what you do to the blatant critical problems as at least a contributing factor, that makes a difference. So always a call to action in marketing called a CTA. Usually you want to have one CTA per website page or for emails. Now it's hard to do that all the time. I get that, but very clear on those calls to action. Don't ever assume that people know exactly what the next step is, because they don't have the context you have.
And if they're coming to your website or they've been referred to you and they're doing a little due diligence, if they really knew that I could solve their problems as a financial advisor, they probably wouldn't be scanning the websites. They already would have reached out to me. So to me, it makes sense that it has to be a crystal clear next step, some call to action. Here's a benefit that helps me prove that I work with the right people, solving the right problem, the right fit, and they know they're the right fit. And I know in your book, you mentioned that message becomes, and I love this. It's just so many nuggets. I could do this for 3 hours, but we're only going to have a few more questions.
That's right.
The message makes it irresistible to the right people and repels the wrong ones. And I thought, man, that's going to save some time because the amount of energy you go through, and knowing that we always want to help people as advisors, the wrong ones, we're just trying to figure out, these people need help. They called us. I know how to help this company. It's not a great fit, but I got empathy. I really want to help them, but they're not a great fit. Boy, Bill, it would be so much easier if my messaging just repelled them up front. I wouldn't feel so guilty maybe of saying, I'm sorry, I can't help you, or trying to refer them away.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. In my presentations, I always say, attract the right. Now you have a magnet, right? And then I say repel the wrong, and it's like a picture of a guy going like this. And I know repel sounds like a strong word, but you're right. We don't want to waste their time. We don't want to waste our time.
Right.
What some folks will do, because you can't always control whether the right folks are going to get sent your way or find you somehow and still think you might be right. Find other ways to serve those people. Maybe you'll have a quick call, maybe teach them, but a lot of different types of financial professionals, they've written guides, they'll have a course, they'll have various different ways to serve someone, to provide them with some information that they may be seeking without having to do a long phone call and waste a lot of time. One key important thing here, since we're talking a little bit about referrals and introductions, we shouldn't feel obligated to take someone on as a client just because they were referred to us from a client. In fact, we may be polite enough to talk to that person. In fact, one of the things I like to teach, a very tactical thing to say to our clients is, Ross, I'm never too busy to see if I can be a resource for any of your colleagues in your industry or any of your colleagues, period, right? Never too busy to see if I can be a resource. Those are the qualifying words right there. Or you might say, Ross, not every, we talked about this already, not everyone's a great match. So if you do identify someone, let me know, let's chat and we'll see if it makes sense, because I don't want to waste anybody's time, right? So it's all about qualifying and not creating lose-lose situations. If you take someone on that isn't perfect match for you, sooner or later, it's not going to work. And they're not going to be happy. And the referral source may hear about that. And that doesn't help either. So we have to be very careful about that.
I also want to be conscious of the potential resource allocation. It's how I say it in my brain, but it just means energy drain for the person that isn't the best fit or a right fit. Because not only will I have to do things that maybe I'm not doing over the course of my day, I'm going to be acutely aware of that over time, that this person requires a little more energy, a little more customization. We're trying to accommodate them. I've only got so many brain calories I can burn on any given day. Do I really want to burn them for someone who isn't a great fit when really someone else would do a better job helping them out anyway? So I really see a cost to that.
There is a cost. There's a time cost. There's a resentment cost, right? You start to feel a little resentful of yourself, of the referral source, of something, right? And they're never going to get quite the same level that they should get from you. So absolutely, there's opportunity loss. There's cost of time. There's all kinds of costs.
So you mentioned in the book that you can't build business through email and web pages alone. That's good. I started with that and I thought, you're right. People need the human connection. I totally get that. And then I started thinking about how we've added Zoom to what we're doing, and it's become part of our practice. I'm sure people are going to try to find a blend, but it made me think that if web pages and emails and so forth are never going to be enough, and we know that we've got to see each other, does learning how to leverage videos and virtual meetings and YouTube instead of, or maybe in addition to, the email marketing, is that going to be the new secret weapon? Because now people can see me and hear me and get a feel for me. Is it really going to be that big a deal down the road?
Yeah. I mean, it's here to stay. Some clients prefer it, and it doesn't, but we don't want to hide behind it. We don't want to just do it, right? A lot of people used to hide behind the mail. Now they hide behind social media and email. So no hiding allowed. Yes, we want to get out and meet people face to face as best we can, as the industry, or as the your business logistics and all of that will allow. There's nothing better than breaking bread with people. I mean, you learn about each other in ways you just don't learn other ways. The advocates for our business, the secret sauce to creating advocates for a business is the business friendship. The friendship side of the business that develops over time. And I know everyone listening to this or watching this knows what I'm talking about, because some of those just happen very naturally. Others we want to court and work on a little bit, but that's the secret sauce to creating advocate, because an advocate not only sees our value, knows our value, but they like us and they want to help us. And when we put those two things together, it's very effective, very powerful. Now, with that said, is Zoom or other related platforms here to stay? Of course. I mean, I had to do my quarterly review with my financial advisor a few weeks ago, and I usually drive to his office. I was feeling a little under the weather, but I didn't want to delay my review. So I said, Aaron, can we do it over Zoom? He said, sure. Right. So always be careful about hiding behind something that might feel more comfortable or more expedient in some ways. But yeah, we got to get good at this. And I mean, so there's no longer any excuse for bad sound. Get an external microphone if you don't have one. I'm doing a podcast now. We call it topadvisorpodcast.com. And I was just talking to a guy yesterday. I do a prelim interview. This guy wasn't using an external microphone. I could hear him, but it was a little echoey. And so I said, Bob, do you have an external microphone? He says, no. I said, I will mail you one. So I spent $70 to get him a decent microphone that he will now own forever and thank me for it. So there's no excuse for that. No excuse for bad lighting. You don't want where your camera's over here and I'm looking at you here, Ross, but the camera's really over here. We're looking up at, showing the chin and all. No, just go Google, email, YouTube this stuff and get good at it. And you will stand out from other people. And forget those Zoom backgrounds that show you at the beach and you could, every time your head moves, it's like, I was talking to a woman yesterday. It was kind of cute, actually. She's working from home and her daughter, it was Monday. Her daughter was there goofing on her, grabbing onto her neck and it was fun. It was cute. But her daughter was going in and out of the picture, right? Because of one of those crazy, stupid Zoom backgrounds that just don't work. So you got me on a little bit of a rant here. Sorry.
Well, I'll tell you that when we started, I thought the virtual backgrounds and green screens, and we tried all that. I thought they were important. And I know there's some value in there. So I'm not going to say yay or nay. But what I think is that we've all had so many Zoom experiences that my background now becomes white ceiling tiles. If it isn't distracting, you're not noticing, you're not thinking about it. In the world of positive, neutral, or negative, it's going to be a neutral most of the time.
Yeah.
So as long as there isn't too much stuff to distract people out there. So I don't think it's as big deal as it was before, but I'll say this about the Zoom and then we'll pivot to the last question is when I look at video and I look at Zoom, my take is it's an opportunity for people to meet me without actually meeting me.
Right. Of course.
And that's a differentiation. Just to be able to watch the video, you listen to me for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. If you can stick around that long, you're going to know I feel comfortable talking to this guy or I don't. I think it's much more clear than trying to read words on a web page. So firms out there that aren't figuring out ways to incorporate digital media with video and stuff like that, I think it's going to cost them down the road. But we'll go ahead. You want to make a comment?
No. I think you're right. I think that that's just part of being professional. It's the next step, and no more excuses about I haven't figured this out yet. I'm so bad with technology. No more excuses. Just suck it up and get good at it.
Yeah, and in the theme of attracting and repelling, on my website it says schedule a Zoom meeting, and I haven't had a meeting in my office for obviously a real long time. Haven't gone to visit a client for a real long time. I don't think it's going to be on my agenda much in the future. I'm pivoting towards that virtual meetings. If you're good with this, I'm good with it. If you're not good with this, we're probably not going to be a good fit. So that will repel some of the people. And I had a really good prospect that wanted to do something in person, and I was not interested in doing it. And they didn't sign us on. And that's okay, because they weren't going to be a good fit. And I'm okay with that. So let's go into the last question. So
Sure.
Here it is. It is the magic wand, Bill. So if I wave this wonderful Disney magic wand and you can use it, you can change anything in the world. What would you change?
Well, I knew this question was coming. So I actually have two things, one serious, one not so serious. The serious one is just a return to civility in politics. It just burns me that we can't talk intelligently, that someone who disagrees with us is the victim, or not the victim, the enemy. That's what I should have said. No, we're not the enemy. So that's one thing. I'm not going to get into a political thing, but it just bugs the heck out of me, and I would change that. And the other goes back to, Ross, something you and I were talking about at the very beginning. So I used to be a drummer in a rock and roll band. I toured the country as a drummer, not a high level band. We were like the opening act for some groups and stuff. So if I could wave a magic wand, I'd be back on stage. I'd be playing drums. I'd be even better than I was back then. And just playing the concert halls and having a great time. You said you saw Chicago the other night, and I used to play all the music from Chicago. I love playing in horn bands. And so I got my drums set up over there in my house. That's what I would do.
That would be fantastic. And I have to say that might be part of my magic wand as well. If I thought about it, it would certainly be a cool thing. Yep. So let's close with, how can people get a hold of you and let them know what you have out there for them?
Yeah, thank you. So I've got a brand new podcast. It'll still be new by the time this airs, relatively new. and it's called topadvisorpodcast.com, topadvisorpodcast.com. It's my new love, my new baby. It's not specific to the 401k group, but most of the principles are the same. I think people enjoy it. My website is referralcoach.com, referralcoach.com. What else? Coach Cates, C-A-T-E-S, coachcates.com is about my coaching. So just come, say hello, shoot me an email. Love to get to know you a little bit. Not trying to sell you anything, just trying to help.
Sounds great. Bill Cates, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thank you, Ross. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Outcomes. Subscribe now to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Advisor 2X. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service providers with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.